If you're familiar with XCOM, you'll know that it's famous for being incredibly difficult. And if you've seen some XCOM content at some point in the last 2 to 3 years, chances are you've seen some of the challenge run videos that people have been doing, where they impose additional restrictions on themselves, like only using pistols or only using explosives. And do check them out if you've not seen them, they are very cool. I for one have been exploring the challenge of beating the game with only one soldier. I was inspired by a video by the Backlogs where he attempted to beat the challenge but failed at the base defense, and I successfully completed the challenge on easy difficulty already in February of 2022. But because easy and normal difficulties have been too easy for me, I decided to take it one step further and try to beat the single soldier challenge on classic difficulty. Now, before I begin, I'll have to go over the asterisks. Some missions do force you to bring more than one soldier. In particular, EXALT missions require a covert operative and at least one regular soldier. Now in theory, you could just choose not to go in these missions, given you had enough money to keep checking for cells, or the patience to just keep tanking their sabotage. But I decided to just do the minimum of 3 covert operations before assaulting their base and then just being done with it. On these missions, the covert operative was only allowed to move, hack and hunker down, and not allowed to attack or perform any supporting actions. The base defense mission similarly forces you to have additional soldiers on the map, both by spawning in regular soldiers and base personnel at the beginning of the mission, and via reinforcement waves throughout. For this mission, my rule was that the extra soldiers would not be allowed to take any actions at all, not even to get them killed faster. And of course the very first mission always has 4 soldiers, and I did use all 4 here, though using only one of them is perfectly possible. I did not use Iron Man, and in fact I reloaded saves very often, as my soldier did get killed more often than I'd like to admit. As for the use of glitches and exploits, well, the game is inherently glitchy, and glitches happen both in my and the aliens' favor. There's one small exploit I did use deliberately, however, as there's a single tile in the boss battle arena from which you can attack the boss without ever spotting him. It's probably possible to beat the boss even without that exploit, but I just got lazy here. It's probably also possible to beat the challenge with even tighter restrictions than I did, or even on impossible difficulty. And if you can do it, please do it, and please document it for us to see. I want to see just how far the limits of this game can be pushed. Now then, let's get into the game. The difficulty gap between normal and classic is quite a lot larger than between normal and easy. On classic, the aliens use the smarter AI package, meaning they are less likely to make dumb moves or just skip their turn, and much more likely to use their abilities and throw grenades. There are no more restrictions on how many aliens are allowed to engage XCOM at any given time, and the hidden cheats are also removed. All aliens have significantly increased stats, and XCOM soldiers start with 1 HP less. On the strategy front, things get a lot more serious now too. Panic increases at a faster rate, you don't start with a spare satellite or an officer training school, and the satellite coverage only grants half the engineers and scientists. The base starts with 30 power instead of 37, and critically, all research projects, excluding the starting options, take 40% longer to complete. This is one of the reasons I chose Europe as the starting base, as I will be building workshops and laboratories in the early game where money is extremely tight and every credit counts. To get us off the ground, I want to use a strategy called Satellite Rush, aiming to build an uplink and max out the capacity within the first month. To do this, I will need to first build a workshop and get an abduction with engineer reward to get to 10 engineers, and get enough money to build the workshop, the uplink, 1 excavation and 4 satellites. This will take 483 credits. The satellites need to be under construction by the 11th, and the uplink by around the 17th. This in turn means the workshop needs to be started by the 7th, so both the timing and the finances to make this work are very tight, and it doesn't always work. But as you'll see, I got quite lucky in this particular run and all goes well. What doesn't go well is the right hand side of my base. Look at it, it's solid rock. We're gonna spend a lot of time and money excavating here. There is an easily accessible steam vent on the left side though, which means all my power generators are going to be over on the leftmost tiles. The satellite uplinks will go in a square on the left side, and all my labs and workshops will go on the right. Now let's take a moment to talk about our soldier. We want to have a plan in place before we start for how to build the perfect soldier for this challenge. And the first choice we need to make is which of the 4 classes to choose: Assault, Heavy, Sniper or Support. We're going to need a lot of firepower, and the Support doesn't really have any good offensive abilities. They do good work in a full squad, but on their own they can't do much. The Heavy is better, and the big gun and rocket launcher make them easily the most powerful class in the early game. However, the Heavy doesn't really improve much, and with her aim maxing out at just 75, and abilities focused mostly on area of effect and suppression, the Heavy's effectiveness drops significantly in the late game, and they are overshadowed by other classes. The Sniper seems like a good choice, and they have a roughly opposite power curve to the Heavy. They are difficult to use in the early game, but their aim reaches 105 at Colonel. They can get in the zone and double tap, and a headshot that can reach 19 damage with the Plasma Sniper, the highest possible damage in the game. But, as seen in the Backlogs video, he attempted this challenge on easy difficulty with a Sniper, and he could not pass the base defense mission. The Sniper didn't have sufficient crowd control and was simply overwhelmed. So my choice is the Assault class. All of the Assault's abilities are incredibly good for this challenge, and their power curve is very solid throughout the campaign. So let's go over the skill tree and see which upgrades we'll be taking. At Squaddy, the Assault gets Run and Gun, which allows them to close the distance and get right up close with a shotgun for maximum aim ramp up, or to make it to a good flanking position. It is also useful for collecting meld or deactivating power nodes on a dash move. At Corporal, the choice is between Tactical Sense and Aggression. This is a toss-up. These are both barely noticeable buffs in my experience. You can choose either, but my choice typically falls on Tactical Sense. At Sergeant, the Assault gets either Lightning Reflexes or Close and Personal. Now, on Enemy Unknown, Lightning Reflexes would have been the undisputed winner here, but on Enemy Within, Close and Personal was changed to give a free shot every turn to a target within 4 units of the soldier. And since our highest priority is maximizing damage output and crowd control capabilities, any extra shots we can get are absolute gold, and Lightning Reflexes cannot hold the candle to it. At Lieutenant, the choice is very simple. Rapid Fire lets you take 2 shots in a single action every turn, with a small aim penalty. But since we're already going to be in the aliens' faces at all times, the aim penalty really doesn't matter. At Captain, we get what I believe to be the most important ability, Close Combat Specialist. It allows the Assault to take a reaction shot against any enemy that closes within 4 tiles, and the only limiting factor is ammo. If 8 aliens close within 4 tiles in a single turn, the Assault will take 8 shots. This ability opens up some really creative tactics, and it is incredibly good for crowd control. You'll see what I mean later. At Major, we get extra conditioning, which grants extra armor points for even higher survivability. With this ability, Titan Armor grants 18 points of armor. And finally, at Colonel, it's a choice between Resilience and Killer Instinct. Now, extra damage sounds nice, but we'll be in the aliens' faces all the time, so not taking crits is actually more important in my opinion. We will have a lot of HP late game, but it can get melted very quickly if you're out in the open. So Resilience is my pick. But we're not quite done with the ability shopping, as next up are the gene mods. And some of these are absolutely critical to our success in this challenge. The most critical is Mimetic Skin. Being able to turn invisible in the heat of battle is an absolute game changer, and you will see that as soon as I get it. my tactics will shift dramatically. More on that later. Also critical is adaptive bone marrow. The free healing in battle can save your life on the field, and the reduced sickbay time means there's much less risk of having to skip an important mission due to injury. I also like to pick up adrenal neurosympathy for the stat buffs it gives. For the rest, the choices are up to personal preference. Okay, enough talk about the soldier for now. Let's get going with the actual game. My highest priority starting off is getting adaptive bone marrow and mimetic skin, so my first choice of research is meld recombination. This will unlock the gene lab. In engineering, all I can do is start excavating. I won't start building power generators until Satellite Rush is complete. On March 5th, an abduction comes in and I take engineers, which I will need to construct a workshop. And now it's all up to Amy Wood to take on the alien menace.
Central, this is Big Sky. Strike team is touching down now.
We find ourselves on a map called Fast Food. This map was indeed a fast food place in Enemy Unknown, but in Enemy Within, it was changed to be a bank. This map is very small and has very open sight lines. This means that if you're not careful, you'll quickly find yourself in a long-range firefight. And since Amy Wood is all on her own, armed with a shotgun, any long-range engagement is a no-go. And so I take the best concealment I can get and head up onto the roof. I spot a meld container on our left side, and getting the meld is a high priority, so I make a run for it. I get lucky enough that the move doesn't trigger any aliens, but I know that a move to the second canister definitely will. And so I make sure to only take a half move to get it. And sure enough, 2 sectoids spot me and dash for the corner of the map. Now, spoiler alert, those sectoids are going to camp there and refuse to move for the entire rest of the mission. I'm not keen on giving chase though, so I head back to a more defensible position. 2 more sectoids join the fight, and they position themselves far away. As I mentioned, I want to avoid long-range fights, so I move back to the roof. A few turns later, I discover some blocked tiles on the back alley, so there is another pod of sectoids here. This is a very tempting target for a grenade, and it gives us some easy kills. Unfortunately, there is another pod watching this happen, and they get triggered as a result. Fortunately though, they are a little bit silly, and the one sitting next to the burning car decides to stay put and mine merge, which means we actually get 4 kills out of 1 grenade. The other 4 are not going to be that easy to kill, so I start roaming. Fighting from the roof is not actually that easy, as there's only half cover available, and I would need to expose myself to all 4 aliens at once. So my aim now is to close the distance whilst isolating individual targets. This sectoid, for example, left his flank wide open, and Squaddy Wood needs no second invitation. After some more roaming, I do head back onto the roof and spot a single sectoid. But it is far away, so my odds aren't good. So I hunker down and I hope that it comes closer. What it actually does is take the same 2 moves over and over. So, with that happening, I decide to just take some pot shots and the second one hits. Now the only 2 sectoids left are the ones who've been camping in the corner this whole time. With some very careful movement, I spot the mine melter without triggering the overwatch. And even though it's only a 30% shot, it hits anyway, and the mission is a success.
Mission accomplished. The medals for accomplishments you deem appropriate.
Back at base, my soldier gets her first medal for an additional 5 defense in cover. In engineering, I keep excavating and start building satellites. I build them one at a time, so if I am short of money, I can cancel one without having to cancel the others. And after selling some corpses on eBay, I start a third satellite as well. I get back to scanning, and it's less than a day until the next mission comes in. A council mission with a money reward. It's very rare to get a council mission this early, but it's exactly what we need right now. This will allow us to afford a fourth satellite and the workshop.
Excellent. We look forward to seeing your progress.
This is the Fallen Highway map, another very narrow map with little cover and open sidelines. But since it's a council mission, I know exactly where I'm likely to make contact. For example, there's a thin man right here, and I know that pushing up to the car won't trigger any more aliens, so this is a safe move to take. On my next move, I briefly spot a pod of sectoids, but they don't spot me, so I use my grenade to take them out. Now there are 2 sectoids left, and they are up on the far high ground. This means I have to jump into the low ground to spot them, which is a dangerous position to be in. Luckily, the one on the right leaves his flank open, so my soldier can take the car cover and take the easy shot. The second sectoid now camps in the corner for a while, but after a few turns, it too makes its move. And even though it's long-range Overwatch with a shotgun, Amy Wood is ruthless. Now for the second half of the mission, we need to get Van Dorn back to the Sky Ranger, and there will be Thin Men dropping from the sky to ambush us. Now, the Thin Men spawns are based on Van Dorn's movement, and they are triggered when he crosses certain tiles. So I can take my time and set up my soldier before moving Van Dorn up. I wasn't quite ready for this first one, but Amy doesn't let me down.
We get out of here alive.
Time to motor.
You can see here exactly where the threshold is to spawn the next wave. And it spawns 2 Thin Men.
Stay alert, Strike One. We've got hostile forces about to hit your position.
I was positioned well enough that the Overwatch takes out the first one, but the second one is far enough away that I need to move through the poison and the Overwatch for a clean shot. I decide not to do that and just take the coin flip instead. It misses. But luckily, the Thin Man misses too. And now I can easily push up and get the kill to end the mission.
Time to motor. Not feeling so good.
I owe you one. Seriously.
Let's hope all of these operations go as
Back at
smoothly as
base,
this one did.
Corporal Wood gets Tactical Sense and another medal, which will give her +2 aim per continent bonus. In engineering, I built the aforementioned workshop and 4th satellite. And a couple days later, meld recombination finishes. My priority now is to get better weapons fast, So I go for weapon fragments as my next research project. Now, it takes quite a while until the next mission comes in. Normally, we would have had a UFO by now, but it's March 15th and we get the month's second abduction. And since I still need to build a satellite uplink, I choose the credits reward. The bar map is one which suits my preferred tactics much better. There are a lot of places to hide, and it's much easier to sneak up and close the distance. First order of business is to dash for the meld, and then to the back alley. Two sectoids are staffing the bar tonight, and while it's tempting to go rushing up the back alley to flank the far one, I decide to stay put and hunker down.
Got the goods.
One thing I know about sectoids is that they love charging you, and this one does exactly that. It only half moves in Overwatches though, but on this turn there is a safe flank available. So with a dash move I run the Overwatch. And it misses.
Kill confirmed.
This frees me up to dash onto the roof, and I actually spot the second melt canister, but it's just too far away to reach it in time.
In sight. Heading to that location.
So I have to content myself with getting this easy shot on the second sectoid, who hasn't moved this entire time.
Trying to pull back. I'm about to start keeping score.
Doing this allows two patrols to spot me on the alien's turn. But one of them took a position I can safely flank.
For the kill. Yes, sir. Out of the game. Moving out.
Taking the high ground once again, I spot a good flank on the mind melder, giving me another 2 easy kills.
Heading to that location. Taken care of. Out of rounds. Moving. On the move. ET in sight.
The last part of the map is out on the parking lot, and I don't want to fight both of them at the same time in half cover, so I pull back.
Aye, aye, Commander.
I find the flank on one of them, and he goes down.
No longer a threat.
The other one then spooks and runs away, but into a position I can easily flank.
Heading to that location. Taken care of.
And finally, the last sectoid stands no chance. By now you will have seen my default tactics.
Moving.
Much like in an Iron Man Impossible campaign, I want to use stealth and concealment to fight as few aliens at a time as possible. I want to avoid having line of sight to more than one alien, and make decisive moves to get guaranteed kills, rather than lengthy firefights at range.
If all our missions go as well as this one did,
Sergeant Wood picks up close and personal to get a free shot on any alien within 4 units of her. This means I can engage 2 weak targets or 1 strong target in 1 turn now, and it means I'll want to get even closer to the aliens to make full use of this ability. In engineering, I start work on a power generator, and then it's barely a few hours until the first month's UFO finally shows up. UFO maps tend to be very large and have very sparse cover with poor concealment.
we'll monitor those readings from here.
This one though is called Small Scout Roadhouse. So it has a large building at the front, in which we will hopefully be finding one of the 2 roaming pods. First order of business is of course to move towards the back alley, and I spot a melt canister in the kitchen, which I collect without a fight. It takes a little while before I finally make contact, and as soon as I do, I dash up onto the roof to close the distance.
On the move.
And sure enough, there's a block tile right here, so I drop down for the easy kill.
See you in hell. Moving.
The second sectoid has also just sat there for 2 turns, so I get the easy flank on him too.
Bye-bye.
The second pod will not be so easy to take down, as they are most likely in the open space between here and the UFO.
Contact.
And that's exactly where I find them. I am at long range with only this rock as cover, so I need to stay put and wait for an opening.
Heading there now.
By hunkering down though, the sectoid is unwilling to take a shot, which means I'm pinned by its overwatch. Eventually, I risk a turn of not hunkering down to draw its fire. The shot is a miss, and that frees me up to close the distance.
All ass. Already there.
And with a decisive move, careful not to trigger the outsider, I get a clean shot on the mine melter, and these 2 guys are toast.
Kill confirmed. I'm rolling.
The next turn, I spot the outsider. These guys are quite dangerous, so I really don't want to take fire from them. They also tend to be fearless and aggressive, so by hiding behind this pillar, I am hoping that it will double move into a poor position. Unfortunately, this outsider is not willing to charge me and hangs back in overwatches.
Heading to that location. On my way.
My patience is eventually rewarded, however, as the outsider takes double move and flanks itself trying to find me, which leads to its swift demise. Lieutenant Wood now gets rapid fire, another significant increase to her firepower. And this should be all the missions done now for this month. 2 abductions, a council mission, and a UFO. So for the rest of the month, we'll just be scanning and doing base management. Our workshop finishes, which means we can now start the satellite uplink. And weapon fragments research finishes as well. This unlocks beam weapons research, but I want to hold off on that until I get some more scientists. Until then, I'll research xenobiology.
I expected that.
With the power generator complete, I can now build the gene lab, and that is a high priority task, so I get going with that right away. And I happen to have just enough money and power left for an access lift, which we also really need now. Mexico requests 2 scopes in return for 4 engineers, and that is an offer I cannot refuse. So I sell a couple corpses on eBay and complete the request. Xenobiology finishes, which unlocks Arc Thrower and the alien jail, but I'm still waiting for more scientists, so it's alien materials next. The access lift is completed, and I immediately sell more stuff to afford the next excavations. I'm kind of in a tight spot with my base right now, as I've used up all available power, and I want my next generator to be the thermo generator on the steam vent, and I want to get that done early enough to still be able to get another uplink built next month. And just in time for the end of the month, we get the satellites, the uplink, the gene lab, and the excavations done. It's been a very successful first month, and all that's left to do is to decide who gets the satellites. The first choice is very clear. The United States is in the red, so they get the first one. Now it's tempting to complete the North America bonus now for the 50% discount on aerospace tech, but I actually want to prioritize the South America bonus for the instant autopsies. I'll explain why I think that's so important very soon. The month ends, and the council report is looking good.
Extremely impressed with the progress of the XCOM project thus far.
With the South America bonus, I get started on the autopsies I have available. And especially the uplink targeting I get from this will be very useful later in the run. Alien Materials has 1 day left, so I'll just let that finish quickly. And now to spend all this money I just got. I start excavating the steam vent, I hire an Interceptor, and in the gene lab my soldier will get the all-important adaptive bone marrow. This will cut the wound recovery time by 2/3, which is insane. And it allows her to partially heal from wounds on the battlefield. This will take 3 days, so we'll have to pray that no missions come in during that time. Now with alien materials done, it's time to choose a new research project. And by choose a new research project, I mean I completely forgot to do that and just resume scanning. Come on, me. Look at the screen. Look! There's no research. Well, with the gene mods done, the excavations are done, and the thermo generator begins construction, and I still haven't noticed a lack of research. And I won't get a chance to notice because the aliens are at it again. The choices this time are scientists, a soldier, and money. And as much as I'd love to have more scientists, my choice falls on 200 more credits. The abduction takes place in Small Cemetery, a map which is difficult enough to play with a full squad, let alone with a single assault. But the geometry of the map is the least of my concerns today, as since it is now April, 2 new types of aliens are now available: floaters and seekers. Now floaters can be annoying with their high mobility and aggression, but I have enough firepower to deal with them by now, if I can get to close range. The seekers, however, are going to be a problem. They can turn invisible, move up right next to you, uncloak, and strangle you. And if that happens, the run instantly ends. Once my soldier gets strangled, there is nothing I can do to stop that, and then the run is just over. So we're going to need some very unique tactics to deal with them. We're actually really lucky that the Seekers are the first units we encounter here, as trying to deal with them while you also have a pod of floaters harassing you is 100 times harder. Simply hiding in place is not going to work for the reasons stated above, but if I keep sprinting at max speed, they won't be able to do their strangle attack. They have very high mobility, but not quite enough to cover my soldier's double move in a single move, which should keep her safe. The problem still remains that they turn invisible, and you can't shoot at something that's invisible. You could hit them with a grenade to force them to uncloak, but they'll just recloak again before you can finish them off. Luckily, they do sometimes decloak on their own. I was under the impression that they had a maximum of 6 turns of invisibility like they do in multiplayer, and while one of them does uncloak after 6 turns, they seem to have infinite invisibility anyway, so it's just down to luck when they uncloak. We will be out in the open when doing the strategy, so they will be guaranteed a clean shot on me. That's just something we're gonna have to live with for the rest of the campaign, I'm afraid. After some time, one of them does show up, uncloaked, and double moves into range. I close the distance, and while they are quite tough and not a guaranteed hit even at close range, I make good use of close and personal and rapid fire, though I only needed one of the shots.
X-ray down.
The other Seeker, meanwhile, watched that happen in the background and immediately recloaks, so it's back to playing chicken.
Already there. 10-4. Got it. Moving. Already there. 10-4.
I get a couple glimpses of it, but it's too far to engage. But once again, my patience pays off, as only a turn later it double moves into range, and Amy Wood moves in for the kill. The first Seeker encounter is easily the most dangerous encounter of the entire campaign, as we have no way to counter their attacks yet. Luckily, the Seeker autopsy unlocks the respirator implant, which grants immunity to strangulation, as well as immunity to poison and +2 health. This is why I was so keen on the South America bonus. The faster I can complete the Seeker autopsy, the better.
Roger. I've got my eyes on.
Now we also get our first encounter with the floaters here in this mission. The floater AI is kind of dumb and they have poor aim, and you can see in this fight their decision making is quite poor.
Throwing grenade. To pull back. That's affirmative. Nailed him.
There's also 2 sectoids, but who cares at this point, they get the ult 1-2 and the mission's over.
X-ray down. X-ray neutralized.
Operational objectives.
Captain Wood now gets Close Combat Specialist, which will allow her to take reaction shots on any alien that closes within 4 tiles, as long as she has the ammo for it. This ability is absolutely broken, and it will be used a lot later in the game. I immediately go ahead and do the Seeker autopsy, and I guess I never did realize that I forgot to research for the past 5 days. The autopsy unlocks respirator implant, as well as the Mimetic skin gene mod, both of which are of the highest priority for me now.
Commander, our current satellite uplink facilities are at full capacity. We should build additional uplinks as soon as possible.
But up next on our agenda, it's time to get absolutely pranked by the Council guy.
Council is requesting your attention.
That's right, a bomb disposal mission just came in. These missions are plenty scary even with a full squad, but with just 1 soldier, this is going to be one hell of a challenge. You will have noticed by now that my tactics have been heavily centered on patience. But on a bomb disposal mission, you are under extreme time pressure. So it's time to throw caution to the wind and my regular tactics out the window. But at least we have a shiny new respirator for some extra protection.
Discretion.
The map we get is Highway Bridge. With a width of 20 tiles, it is the narrowest map in the game, tied for first with Fallen Highway. Out of the 5 maps available for bomb disposal, this is still quite a good pick. If the game had picked Grand Cemetery, I would have been screwed right now. As it is, I still have quite the challenge ahead of me. On a bomb mission, there is a timer in the top right corner. We must defuse the bomb before the timer hits 0. If it does, the explosion can no longer be prevented, and you must evacuate, failing the mission. The bomb is at the far end of the map, and you must deactivate power nodes along the way to stop the timer running out, and there are typically a lot of enemies blocking your path. Getting 1 node per turn is already tough, but having to kill a horde of thin men at the same time is even tougher. So we will have to take an uncomfortable amount of risk and make some terrible moves on purpose. For example, I intentionally opened up my flank to these thin men, because it let me move 2 extra tiles towards the bomb.
Objectives updated.
It seems you've bought yourself some time.
Okay.
They don't take advantage though, and I get to flank one of them instead. The second makes an aggressive push, hitting me through the low cover. In turn, he opens up his flank, which hands me an easy kill. I'm 1 tile too far from activating close and personal though, so I don't make it to a node this turn.
I'm rolling. Reloading. Moving out. Enemy
Another
spotted.
thin man is waiting behind the truck and takes hard cover. I could push further, but doing so would trigger another pod, so I take the 27% rapid fire instead. The first misses, but the second strikes true. I need to get a move on now, and there's still some distance to cover, so I enter run and gun and take a full double move to another node. Being in run and gun allows you to deactivate nodes immediately, which is nice, but now there are 2 more thin men between me and the bomb. A 47% rapid fire takes out the furthest one, but that still leaves the other, and I'm out of ammo and in low cover. But there's no time to reload. If I do, the thin man will flank me on his turn, and that will be game over. So, it's time to get up close and personal, and whip out the pistol.
On the move.
It takes both close and personal and rapid fire, but it's just enough to keep us safe for now. Now, the bomb timer is at 1, and I am in blue move range of the bomb, but taking that move will trigger a wave of reinforcements, and I'm still out of ammo. Knowing that my run and gun will be available again next turn, I instead move to the power node to buy myself 1 more turn and reload. Doing this also allows me to heal 2 more HP. With run and gun recharged, I can make the move to the side of the bomb that will give me hard cover towards the reinforcements, and I can finally deactivate it. A total of 4 thin men now drop in, all entering Overwatch. Thankfully, my own Overwatch takes out the one on the high ground, but that still leaves 3. I have a clear shot on the nearest one, and it should be an easy kill, but it only hits for 3. And now, it looks like we're in a lot of trouble.
I'm taking fire.
Luckily, Close Combat Specialist, the ability we just unlocked after the previous mission, is here to save the day. That saves us from the immediate threat, but even at range, thin men are extremely dangerous. I'm still pinned by the Overwatch, so the best I can do is take a coin flip. It misses, and now I'm once again out of ammo.
I'm taking fire. Reloaded. Hey, a little help?
Once it's my turn again, I am suppressed and at 3 health, and with no great options. I take a weak shot, and once again it's a miss.
Damn it.
I could have hunkered down here, but they are already so close that they could probably flank me from there, so I want to have Close Combat Specialist available.
Damn. That was close.
And won't you know it, one of the thin men walks right into it. And with just 1 thin man left, I can just charge up to the flank and fill it with buckshot. It was by far the scariest mission yet, and I'll be honest, I did have to reload some saves here to get through. I will go as far as to say that if we hadn't had a single one of the upgrades we've gotten, the mission might have failed. Close and personal, rapid fire, close combat specialist, the adaptive bone marrow, even the respirator, have all done their part in keeping Captain Wood alive. And despite all the plasma burns she suffered, her recovery time is only 3 days. This is why adaptive bone marrow is so crucial. Without it, the recovery time would have been 10 days at least. Back at the base, we continue scanning until eventually experimental warfare finishes, at which point I finally bite the bullet and start the 21-day journey towards beam weapons. To help with that, I start building my first laboratory, which will get an adjacency bonus from the Gene Lab. I build a foundry as well next to the laboratory, so it too will get an adjacency bonus. And finally, a satellite uplink. You might notice that I'm not building an officer training school. That's because the only thing I need it for is rapid recovery, and that's not high on my priority list right now. What is on my priority list, however, shows itself just a few hours later on the big screen. A terror mission. A terror mission, if ignored or failed, leads to the immediate exit of the affected country from the Council, and will set the rest of the continent to 5 panic.
Looks like they've changed.
They are also filled with chrysalids, who eat lone soldiers for breakfast. This mission is not going to be any less scary than the last one. The map is Convenience Store Terror, or as it should really be called, Flank City. You don't get any good cover unless you get inside the building, but with it being so far away, you're likely to make contact before you even get past the blue car. As much as I would like to be patient and take my time, every turn the aliens will be killing civilians, and if they kill all 18, the mission fails and the country will leave the Council. So I need to get a move on and rescue at least one civilian. Unfortunately, there aren't any nearby that I can easily get to, so I'm going to need to move out and shoot all the aliens before they can get to the civilians. Just as predicted, I don't even get past the blue car before spotting a pair of floaters. And just as I called this map Flank City, they are already threatening my flank. So I pull back behind the car and wait for them to do something stupid. And this one sure does. The other one hasn't moved, and the shot is still 50%, but I'd rather take it than wait for a better opportunity. And I do win the coin flip. It turns out they were the least of my troubles though, as a patrol of chrysalid gallops into view. These aliens are extremely fast, mobile, and can kill you in one hit. And they infect civilians to create more chrysalids. Still, I'd rather fight 3 of these than 2 seekers without a respirator. My first move is to break line of sight and to get out of their blue move radius, and also to reload. This has the desired effect of wasting one of their moves, and it also triggers Close Combat Specialist. That's one down, but the other has run off to create more chrysalids instead of fighting me.
I'm on the move. Overwatch. Aye, aye. I'm on the move.
And here's proof. A zombie. This is what happens to any human target which is killed by a chrysalid. And if they're not taken down in 3 turns, they will spawn a new chrysalid. And since one isn't bad enough, there's a second one on the roof. Luckily, they are quite weak, and the rooftop zombie goes down hard. But the other zombie now turns into a chrysalid. It's at this point in the terror mission that it becomes very hard to track just how many threats you are facing. I guess there are 2 chrysalids out there now, but who knows how many zombies there are now. I don't have time to worry about it though, as this one charges right at me, and only gets 1 single tile away from ending my run. I can't take it down this turn, so I move away, reload, and hope for Close Combat Specialist to save me.
Back online.
It does, and so I can shift my attention to the one threatening the civilian. I don't want to move closer, as that will just trigger more aliens, so I rapid fire from range and hope for the best.
Damn it. It's the target.
But it's not enough. The civilian goes down, and the aliens that I wanted to avoid triggering now patrol into view. The situation is deteriorating fast. Chrysalids are being spawned faster than I can take them down, and now these floaters are a ranged threat I really didn't need. This means I can't stay out in the open anymore, so I have to sprint to cover.
Need a resupply.
Amy Wood is alone, out of ammo, and completely surrounded. It took me several retries to find some way through this. The first choice is clear. She needs to reload and minimize the number of threats this turn.
Back in.
The floater stays put and fires. 4 damage is the lowest possible, so we'll take that. The chrysalid does not move to attack, but it gets caught in the close combat specialist anyway. A zombie and another chrysalid take its place. I can't take all 3 of these down now, but I can break line of sight by moving to the floater, taking it down.
X-ray neutralized.
And since I'm still in blue move range of the chrysalid, I run even further away. For a turn, things stay quiet and I get a chance to reload.
Rock and roll.
The remaining floater shows itself, but continues to make dumb decisions. And by that I mean it just decides to sit there on the ground with no cover.
On the move.
And that is about the easiest kill we'll get this mission. With the ranged threats dealt with, I can move out into the open again. And you do want to do that when dealing with melee threats, as you want clear lines of sight to see them coming.
Dead and go. On the move. Heading there now. Moving to Overwatch.
The clear line of sight also lets us see this impressive Overwatch shot. That's good stuff. And with one more reaction shot, it's 13 aliens killed, and a rather impressive 10 civilians saved.
All mission objectives completed.
For her efforts, Amy is promoted to Major and gets extra conditioning, which grants extra armor points. Another huge upgrade, and with that, she heads off to sickbay for 5 days. A new medal is also available, which will grant her a free plus 10 aim and crit chance for the rest of the run. Now that we've encountered chrysalids, I run the Chrysalid Autopsy, which unlocks chitin plating. This is another item we're going to want to get, as it gives plus 4 armor, reduces melee damage by 50%, and it grants immunity to strangulation. And since we killed so many of them on the terror mission, we can afford to get one immediately. This time, however, Amy does not get the chance to recover before the next mission strikes. A UFO appears, and we do shoot it down, but with Amy in sickbay, we have to ignore it. Now in theory, I could have just not shot it down at all, as on classic difficulty, battleships don't appear until May. So if I had ignored this large scout, they would have sent another large scout a few days later to destroy my satellite, which I could have then shot down and gone on that mission instead. But I didn't think of that at the time. Instead, an abduction comes in, and Amy recovers just in time to be ready. My choice falls on scientists this time, as my engineer count is good as it is, and my research speed is terribly slow.
Central, this is Big Sky. Strike team.
The map we get is the gas station. It has a very large open parking lot and a set of buildings with somewhat decent cover. The start of this mission is pretty unremarkable. There's a pot of sectoids, but they're no threat to me anymore. Mostly.
Got him. Taken care of.
Amy misses this 91% shot, and so I do have to spend a little bit of extra time on this one. But it all works out in the end.
Yes, sir. Got a lot of heat on me. I'm on the move. Dead and gone.
Another pod of sectoids is hiding on the roof of all places, but they too are no threat.
Kill confirmed. Kill confirmed.
The last 2 pods are proving hard to find, but finally 3 floaters patrol into view. I'm in a bad position to fight them though, so I run to better cover.
Roger, Dodger.
I take a 6 damage plasma shot, but it's actually okay since my soldier has 6 armor points now, 4 from the chitin and 2 from the regular Kevlar armor.
I'm on the move. They're moving to flank me.
Floaters may not be smart, but they can move very fast. And although they can't hit me this turn, all 3 are on me now, and I'm suppressed. Unfortunately for the suppressor, he closed to within 4 tiles of Amy, and at that range, she is ruthless.
Aye, aye, Commander. Nailed him.
Seeing this, the remaining floater runs away. Okay, never mind. He double moves right into my face, and gets a face full of buckshot.
To lose ground. Got him. Dead in the water here.
Now all that's left is a pod of Seekers.
Race spotted.
They may not be immediately lethal, now that I have strangle immunity, but they are still guaranteed a clear shot from wherever they choose.
Moving.
And the first one demonstrates this right now.
Moving out.
The other one, it turns out, was cloaked in an Overwatch. Luckily, the shot is a miss. The first one is toast, and though she hits the second one, it's still up.
Heading to that location. Moving to Overwatch.
Still, uncloaking does trigger Overwatch. And this time, my soldier's aim is true.
The game. Got no
Everything
ammo.
by
Though she's wounded for another 3 days, she finally gets her promotion to Colonel. And with it, she gets full immunity to critical hits. You've seen by now at how much risk of being flanked my soldier is, so this perk will save us from a lot of damage. We continue scanning, and not much happens for a while, until we get a request for Reaper rounds with a money reward. We sell some corpses to make it happen, and now we can afford an access lift and another laboratory. The satellites and the uplink are done, so it's time for another round of deciding who gets coverage.
Satellite uplink complete.
Mexico completes the North America bonus, and China is in the red,
Satellite
so it gets the second. The
satellite
third
launched.
goes to the UK.
passed on directly to the region.
This makes no progress towards continent bonuses, as we already have the Euro bonus,
Uplink required.
but it does give us a lot of cash and a scientist, which we desperately need. The workshop adjacency bonuses, meanwhile, have saved us enough money to afford another workshop. And only a day later, we finish beam weapons and get started on Carapace armor. With the access lift now complete, I can get another excavation going, so I can get another power generator built. And just like that, the month is over.
Incoming transmission.
We are extremely
With new cash acquired, it's time to go on another spending spree.
thus far.
I do a quick excavation, and then it's finally time for Mimetic skin. As mentioned earlier, it's an absolutely essential upgrade, without which this challenge is probably impossible. Getting this will cause a massive shift in my tactics as well, and we'll get into that soon. And by soon, I mean right now, as it finishes just as introduction comes in. We find ourselves on a map called Pier A, another very narrow map, but one that has great cover and concealment. With our newfound cloaking abilities, this is likely to be a fun one. On my first move, I head to the hard cover, activating the invisibility. In the distance, I spot a pod of mutons, but of course, they can't spot me, so nothing happens.
Aye, aye, Commander.
As soon as I move from this position though, I will lose the cloak, and they will spot me. Ideally, I would wait for them to patrol out of my line of sight, but on this map, this particular pod will never move. So, with no other option, I trigger the fight.
Enemies rolling up.
I recloak on the next turn, and from now on, I will end most of my turns by not doing anything. I use backspace to end my turn, as using Overwatch will break my invisibility. The mutons, it turns out, have magic abilities of their own, as one of them teleports right on top of me, which triggers Close Combat Specialist and breaks my invisibility anyway. This lets the others suppress me, and now the only choice I have is to run through the reaction shot.
Heading there now. That all you got?
Thankfully, it misses. This close to the muton, I have more than enough firepower to take one down, even with stock gear.
Taken care of.
With the immediate threat dealt with, I once again move to recloak. That is my highest priority now. As long as I'm cloaked, I am safe. Mutons, though, are very aggressive, and only barely smarter than floaters, so this one just barges right into my CCS range again.
X-ray neutralized.
With the mutons dealt with, I can move over to the secret pod here.
The motor.
And I make a pretty dumb move, actually. I should have just opened fire. Instead, I break my cloak and I let them spot me, which of course makes them cloak themselves. This becomes a bit of an awkward situation, as I can cloak too now. So we could all just sit around cloaked the whole time. So I do Overwatch, and one of them triggers it. It doesn't kill though, so I have to tank the plasma shot. The other takes advantage of the opening and also opens fire. This is why getting resilience was so important, as I could have easily taken 12 damage here instead of just 7. As soon as it's my turn though, these two are done for.
See you in hell. Got it. Moving.
The remaining aliens are floaters and thin men, as we can hear. Since we can cloak now, we can now make long double moves into unknown territory, without having to worry about being spotted. I spot the thin men at the edge of my vision, but I don't want to engage them there. I want to be closer to them, which means I have to stay put and hope they move towards me. Which they do. This time, they ended their turn outside my line of sight, which frees me up to reposition. As soon as I do that though, the thin men are magically gone. Instead, I spot the floaters, and then the thin men reappear right next to them at the next turn. I keep waiting until they finally patrol into my CCS. It doesn't kill, but a second one also triggers it, and that shot does kill. This is why CCS is so powerful. I could have very well cut down 2/3 of that pot on their turn. As before, I immediately move to recloak.
Aye, aye, Commander.
This thin man isolates himself behind me, so he gets the close and personal special. The floaters meanwhile continue to do absolutely nothing, and this last thin man is content to just overwatch, until I eventually get tired and take a pot shot. It hits, but doesn't kill.
Starting to lose ground.
The return fire breaks my cover, and once again my first move is to recloak.
Moving. Moving.
A turn later, the thin man has run away, but not far enough to be safe from the pistol.
You hear that?
And since that worked so well, I take down the floaters with just the pistol as well.
He's down. Missed the target. I'm on the move. I'm about to. See you in hell.
Excellent work.
We
The Muton autopsy unlocks ammo conservation in the foundry. This is a high priority project, since, as you've seen, we burn through ammo incredibly fast. We need 6 Muton corpses to do it though, which, spoiler, will take me absolutely forever to get. At this point, Arc Thrower is down to only 4 days, so I get that one done quickly. A day later, I build 2 more power generators.
Excavation.
With Arc Thrower done, I return to care of his armor. And finally, on May 7th, I can finally go on another UFO mission.
Detected.
I'm actually so low on alloys that I don't even have enough to build a laser rifle. I actually have to switch my research to precision lasers, which has a lower alloy cost to build one. This being a traditional UFO map, it's just a big forest with sporadic cover. So I'll just be moving from hardcover to hardcover until I run into some aliens. As it happens, it only takes one move. Like on the previous mission, I want to stay put and hope they either walk into CCS range or they break line of sight so I can move without losing my cloak. In this case, they do break line of sight and I dash to catch up.
Let's do this.
On their turn, they stumble into my CCS radius, and now I've got them exactly where I want them. They both catch a face full of laser from the reaction shots, and on my turn, they each catch one more. This is the ideal textbook scenario for how I want to deal with isolated pods. Maintain my invisibility, close the distance, then activate them with my reaction shots on their turn.
That's it. I'm out. No.
I employ the same tactics with this pod of floaters. And while I do get the reaction shot, it unfortunately misses.
Heading there now.
In return, the floater also misses its reaction shot, and I regain the initiative.
X-ray down.
Now that I'm using a laser rifle, I am more willing to use Overwatch myself. This shot is a miss, but the floaters continue to not impress me with their intelligence. It's amazing just how predictable they are.
X-ray from the side. Dead in the water here. No longer a threat. Ready to rock. It just got hot in here.
With the floaters dealt with, there's only the outsider left. And with my mimetic skin, that is the opposite of a challenge. Back at the base, Colonel Wood goes into the gene lab to get adrenal near-sympathy for the passive stat boosts it provides. A day later, the workshop is completed, and with that, I will now build the next round of satellites. I waited for the workshop just so I can save a few credits on each one. And as I'm at it, I throw in an arc thrower as well. I haven't actually built the alien containment yet, but I will get there. Japan now wants laser rifles in exchange for engineers, and that is a deal worth taking. With the power generators done, I can now build the next uplink. And after selling some more bodies, I built the alien containment as well.
The adrenaline spike caused by killing.
Excavation complete.
A week later, Precision Lasers finishes, which unlocks the scatter laser, ironically enough, the first upgrade to the shotgun. The alien containment finishes, and there really hasn't been any alien activity in a while. In fact, the next mission that comes in is not an alien one, but an EXALT one. That's right, EXALT is part of this campaign now. And as their first move, they have drained a whopping 2 credits from my bank. This forces me to send out an operative to disrupt them, and then go on a mission a week later.
Covert operative deployed to disrupt EXALT cell in India.
Next, Carapace armor is done, and at this point, I really don't have any research projects available. I need to do nav computer, but I don't have enough resources to do it. I end up choosing heavy laser, as that would at least give me the laser cannons for my interceptors. It's still all quiet on the alien front, and so, it's time for the EXALT mission.
Uplink complete.
Technically you don't have to do these, but I hate them. I hate EXALT, and they annoy me, so I want to get rid of them.
We are confident that you will handle this
Equipped with Carapace armor and a scatter laser, Colonel Wood heads out to rescue her buddy. EXALT missions come in 2 flavors, extraction and data recovery. This is an extraction mission, where all we need to do is hack 2 relays and run back to the Sky Ranger. The map is the one from the Portent mission, and there are 2 pods of 3 EXALT troopers hanging around, and reinforcements will spawn when the covert operative moves next to one of the relays, as well as during the run to the extraction zone. Ideally, I want to take care of the wandering patrols first. Now the first few minutes of this mission is just me staying in cloak, chasing after those pods, and it's here, on the far end of the map, that I finally catch them. And just like the mutons last time, it's 4 shots, 2 kills in 1 turn. The other pod triggers now too, and the straggler threatens my operative, so they need to run away. The EXALT AI is extremely aggressive, and not quite as dumb as some of the aliens have been. But no amount of intelligence protects them from the cloaked CCS ambush. The other EXALT units decide to charge my operative, so Amy Wood needs to make a full distance dash to intervene. Do note that Adrenal Near Sympathy, which is currently active, improves mobility, and without it, she might not have been able to reach this position. A 50% rapid fire is a risk, but it only takes 1 hit to cut down the immediate threat.
the move. See you in hell.
That concludes the fight against the patrols, and now it's time to fight the reinforcements, which at this point is barely a challenge.
Oh, damn it. X-ray down. I'm about to start keeping score. See you in hell. Let's rock. Kill confirmed. X-ray neutralized. X-ray neutralized.
Excellent work, Commander.
Excellent work all around. Another impressive effort from our troops.
A quick sweep uncovers another cell in Mexico, and my operative heads out once again.
Take out EXALT.
The Council now has a mission for us, but it's the Truck Stop Asset Recovery mission. A mission which is entirely populated with sectoids, no matter how far into the game you are. So here's a quick highlight reel of Amy Wood killing sectoids. And while we're at it, we take the Outthrower along to hopefully bring one home alive.
Out of the X-ray new. Hope this works. Target is still moving. Hope this
Somehow, both stun attempts fail, so I reload the save and try again.
light 'em up.
It fails one more time,
Watch it.
but the second attempt succeeds.
Hope this works.
Excellent. Now we can begin preparing for the interrogation.
Dead. Bye-bye. Got him. Got. X-ray down. Kill confirmed. Dead. Nailed him.
Another one down. Good work, Commander.
With that, we unlock sectoid interrogation and plasma pistol research. I've been hoping to capture something larger like a Thin Man for the UFO tech research credit or a Muton for plasma weapons research credit. Doing so would have given us light plasma rifle research instead, skipping the plasma pistol. As it is, we get beam weapons research credit and have to do the plasma pistol research. And since there's nothing else to do, we get started right away. I put a laser cannon on a single interceptor, and, wouldn't you know it, that's exactly where an abductor now spawns. Ah, the power of not playing on Iron Man.
Come in, HQ. Big Sky is
Abduction missions will now start getting replaced with Abductor UFOs, which will give us a lot of desperately needed resources. Hopefully some intact flight computers and power sources, and I can also capture an outsider unit. Now, I choose to go for the meld at the UFO entrance. This is also the place where you're most likely to get swamped with enemies, and that's exactly what happens.
Something over here. Dead and gone.
This is where Mimetic skin also really comes into its own, as I can just turn the corner, disappear, and regain the initiative. Now I'm still not up for a straight fight against all that, so I want them to give chase and get ambushed.
Come. Yes, sir.
I do fight the thin men that come up here, and I only take one hit for the effort. I even still make it to the meld on time.
On my way.
I can't stress enough how important it is to have the initiative. And the invisibility from Mimetic skin does so much for letting you disengage from fights and act on your terms. It becomes so much harder for the aliens to coordinate their fight against you if they can't see you.
It's been secured.
But sometimes, I swear, they actually can see me and all come out at the same time. Oh well, they would have done. Except, my game actually soft locks here and I'm forced to reload a save.
On my way.
It's one of these thin men that was locking up my game. So I jumped down here to see if that stops that from happening. And it seems to have helped, and now the mission progresses as it should. Using all the tactics that we've discussed, it's not too much of a challenge now. It's all about maintaining the cloak as much as possible and isolating single targets for easy kills.
He's down. Falling back. Taking fire over here. Down out here.
At this point, there's only that one thin man left, and I want to capture him alive. So I take the pistol and get him to 1 health. Unfortunately, the thin man runs into my CCS range, and he goes down. This is the one downside of CCS. It makes live captures a lot harder. And now the only thing left to do is to take care of the outsiders. There are 2 on this ship, and I want to capture 1. Killing them is easy, but as we've just seen from the thin man, capturing them will be tricky. They are very aggressive and will often run up right next to you. Yeah, kinda like that. So it's good to have the pistol out, otherwise that outsider would have been dead now. It takes 1 more pistol shot, and then the arc thrower, and this outsider is ours.
Subduing target.
Excellent work. We begin analyzing this new artifact.
From the UFO, we get 1 flight computer, and we make some fat stacks selling trash. And we start researching the shard. In engineering, we finally have enough resources to build more laser cannons, and in the foundry, we use our fat stacks to develop tactical rigging. I know I just said Abductor UFOs would be replacing abduction missions, but it's never that simple, so it's only a day before a real abduction happens.
Central, Big Sky.
There isn't really anything new happening on this mission, so it's our standard tactics. Run to the back alley, stay cloaked, ambush aliens.
That's what we're looking for. Lone out here. Moving to fire position. Roger, Dodger. Hostile spotted. Hell. Damn, that was close. Taking fire. That's affirmative.
Some floaters show up, but they can't really do anything to me at this point. They do their mindless charge thing, and I do my 1-2 punch thing. I do stun a floater, though that only has a marginal benefit to my research. It does mean I can research a light plasma rifle instead of plasma pistol, but that's about it. Finally, this pair of sectoids has absolutely no chance.
That is not good. Got something over here. Taken care of.
Mission accomplished.
Excellent work, Commander. I'm impressed you were able to recover recruits
Then,
to work
back
on
at the
the lab.
base, I finally get enough peace from the aliens to finish Outsider Shard, and this unlocks the alien base assault. I'm not going to go on the base assault though, not yet. I will wait with that for quite a long time, until I'm fully prepared. 4 fresh satellites are ready for launch, and they go up over Africa and Russia. From this day forward, we will no longer have to worry about money.
Satellite launched. Satellite launched. Satellite uplink facility.
Just give the word, and I'll begin manufacturing the
And
key.
finally, on May 30th, we go on our second of 3 EXALT missions. And this one is going to be tough. The last one was an extraction. This one is a data recovery. This means time pressure and completely unmanageable amounts of enemies swarming one central location you need to defend. And I'll be honest here, I tried this mission, failed, retried, failed, and eventually kept reloading until I got one specific map. But you can see the highlights of my first failure here. You can see there are like 10 to 15 EXALT units all bearing down on the same place, and you can't run away and split them up, as once they hack the transmitter, the mission fails.
Commander, EXALT forces are in position to hack the transmitter.
The second attempt is just as hopeless.
X-ray down. Moving out.
Finally, I get this map, and on this one I have a chance. Commercial restaurant. The problem usually is that the 2 wandering patrols make their way to the encoder, and constant waves of reinforcements swarm in. But on this map, the encoder is on the roof, so I can avoid triggering the patrols, and only pick off the reinforcements until they stop. They climb up the drain pipes one by one, making them at least manageable. You even get to re-enter cloak on quiet turns.
Commander,
And for the rest of the mission, it's just rinse and repeat. There are some wonky sightlines here though, and I trigger one of the patrols I didn't mean to. But there's not much else to talk about now. I continue to not be impressed by their fighting skills.
reinforcements, Commander. We just
No long. X-ray on the move. Nailed him. Got him. Nailed. I'm on the move. Aye, aye, Commander. Look sharp. Enemies rolling up. He's dead. I'm under fire! I'm on it, Commander. Enemy in sight. Kill. He's dead. I'm all out. Repositioning on us. That all you got? On my way. Out of the game.
And that's it. A difficult mission, but quite boring. Back to base. The council report comes in, and all is looking well. With the new money, I built one final uplink, the skeleton key, and 3 more satellites. The foundry completes tactical rigging, so my soldier will now be taking both the chitin plating and the respirator into battle. The final access lift is done, so I start new excavations and a power generator. The aliens remain quiet, but a scan for EXALT does find one cell in Australia, so it's off to Oz for my operative. Light plasma rifle research is done, so I move on to regular plasma rifle. One more power generator goes up, and I finally built the officer training school. Canada requests light plasma rifles, but I decline the request. I don't need money at the moment.
Laboratory online.
And on June 12th, finally, the aliens are back, with a landed large scout. I do take the captured LPR with me here, but I'm not really sure why, as it deals less damage than the scatter laser, but it is excellent at range. And since it's a UFO map, there will be long distance encounters, so maybe that swayed my mind.
Approach with extreme caution. Current enemy status at the site is unknown.
A landed UFO will have more aliens on it, so we've got our work cut out for us. Since it's now June, we've also got some new aliens to deal with. Cyberdisks and drones. Cyberdisks are very powerful. They deal a lot of damage, move very far, and have a lot of health. From our light plasma rifle, they will take about 4 hits to take down. After killing the drone, I have 2 shots left in the magazine, and they put a good dent in, but it's still going to take 1 to 2 more hits. On its turn, the Cyberdisk makes a strange double move, which allows me to break line of sight and reload.
I'm on it, Commander. Good to go.
The Cyberdisk makes another double move and lands, and Amy Wood moves in for an easy kill.
Headed there now. Bye-bye.
There are these mutons here that I want to try and capture for the plasma weapons research credit. But first, I've got some floaters to take care of.
They're trying to pull back. See you in hell.
Moving further in, the mutons bound into my CCS range. Another pack of floaters is also right there.
They're shifting their attack.
And with that, my soldier has taken 3 reaction shots in 1 turn.
I'm about to start keeping score. Bye-bye.
With my ammo spent, I disengage and recloak.
Locked and loaded. X-ray down.
CCS takes down 1 muton, but doesn't proc on the second. Oh, and you know how I mentioned at the start that there are some glitches in the aliens' favor? Yeah, this is one of them. There's something strange about the geometry in large scouts that lets flying units attack me when I can't even see them.
Out of the game.
Now I still want to get the stun on the muton, and I lead with a pistol shot. But my luck with the arc thrower continues to be terrible in this run, and it fails.
It's still up.
One painful hit later, the second attempt also fails, and the muton finishes the job. So I reload and try again, lead with a pistol shot, then move away to draw the muton's fire.
Moving.
Instead, it runs away.
Say goodnight.
Again the stun fails, and this time the muton runs, which procs CCS, and he goes down. Oh well, maybe next time.
See you in hell.
chalk up another one.
Back at the base, Cyberdisk Autopsy unlocks UFO targeting. And Drone Autopsy, I don't know, doesn't matter. But it's the UFO tracking that I wanted. I don't typically use the Interceptor modules, but it will turn out that I will need them later. June 14th, the Covert Operative is ready for extraction. And to be honest, there's not much to talk about with this one, so here's the highlight reel.
Covering that data.
I'm rolling. Enemy in sight. I'm about to start keeping score. Bye-bye. On the move. Got him. Dead. See ya. Nailed it. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Nail. That's a little fool. He's down. This. Taken care. Dead.
You've secured the operative.
With that done, we've now completed the minimum required number of EXALT missions to be able to accuse a country of harboring their base.
Complete.
But before I do that, I want to wait for the plasma rifle research to finish. Once it does, I start UFO power source, quickly wait for the OTS, buy rapid recovery, buy shiny new rifle, and now I'm ready to take down EXALT. To find the country that has their base, I will just accuse each of them in order and reload the save if it was wrong.
Commander.
Exalt base location.
Turns out they're in China.
Our objective for this operation is
The EXALT base is on the roof of a skyscraper,
within the building
and while you're expected to move through the front door, you don't have to. You can actually walk around the entire perimeter and even use the entire roof if you feel like it. I don't feel like breaking down the front door today, so I go to the left instead.
We've got multiple contacts.
Now, while on regular EXALT missions, elite operatives don't appear until July. On their base assault, there will be elites regardless of when the mission takes place. They have G mods that make them more effective, as well as having better armor and their own laser weapons. Especially the Elite Heavy is annoying, as it has a damage resistance gene mod that reduces 25% of incoming damage. The rest of them don't really stand a chance against my plasma rifle crits though. I'm not playing this mission very carefully at all, basically just laying on the trigger without much thought, and I do take quite a lot of damage as a result. I could have been more careful, but I get through the mission well enough as it is, and with rapid recovery now purchased, I'm even less scared of sickbay time.
Got him. Dead and gone. X-ray neutralized. It's crowded over here. No longer a threat. Dead. Shot failed. X-ray neutralized.
Our local affiliates at WFXS indicate that a minor electrical fire was reported near the upper floors of a large office building downtown. Sources indicate that first responders were on the scene within minutes. So far, there have been no reported injuries. In light of the recent events,
I'll give EXALT some credit. shouldn't have any further
From the EXALT base, we do capture a number of valuable items, which I will promptly sell on eBay.
on the aliens themselves.
And that's that. Bye bye EXALT. After power source, my next research is alloy cannon, the final upgrade to the shotgun. I could have gone for Illyrium too to get Titan armor, but I'd rather have better firepower to take down enemies before they even get a chance to shoot back. A small scout lands on June 19th, and at this point it might be easy to dismiss a small scout as an easy mission, but this mission is not a trivial one, as you'll see. As we see a group of mutons in the distance, it's the sound of heavy footsteps that is our biggest concern. This mission has a mechtoid, a sectoid wearing a mech suit. They can get very annoying with their 2 shots per turn, high HP, and the shield they get when mind merged. So ideally, I want to take down their sectoid buddies first before engaging them directly. As I move into the UFO, I have the misfortune of running into the pack of mutons, with a mechtoid in the far distance, and a surprise seeker pod that I didn't even notice.
That's affirmative.
I still want to try to capture a muton, but at this point the benefits of that are waning. The seekers do their seeker thing, i.e. being annoying, the mechtoid pod gets triggered, and the muton misses. Surrounded and with no ammo, I once again break line of sight and recloak. The muton runs into the CCS, so that's the last chance to capture one gone. Now begins the hunt for the sectoid mind melders, with a brief seeker interlude.
They're repositioning on us. He's down. Heading there now. No longer on the move.
With that, the mechtoid is the last enemy left, and I start playing a long game of chicken to get it to walk into my CCS range.
I'm on it, Commander.
Finally, after several minutes, I get into this position, and I decide it's good enough, and I go on the offensive. And it turns out it was just that easy.
Another day? Troops are making it look easy out there. Let's hope they don't get too caught.
Now I wait for alloy cannon to finish,
Commander, our satellite is prepped and standing by for launch. We are ready to deploy it on your orders.
but just before it's done, the aliens terrorize Cologne. The map is military ammo. It is filled with explosive vehicles, tanks and trucks, as well as having absolutely terrible cover at the start, being essentially Flank City 2.0. It being a terror mission, I want to save at least one civilian, so I won't risk failing the mission. I spot one behind the wall on the far left and I move towards it, but doing this triggers a cyber disk. This means I can't rescue that civilian quite yet, as I can't risk being uncloaked there. The cyber disk is going to come flying over the wall any second. I do have the firepower to take it down in one turn now, but the resulting explosion blows a hole into the wall, opening line of sight and triggering a pack of chrysalids.
Enemies in sight.
One of them immediately dies to CCS, but the other walks right up and slashes my face.
Firepower over here.
Big shoutouts to Chitin Plating though for tanking that hit. But it gets worse, as another cyberdisk joins the fight. I use the free first shot to tag the chrysalid, then dive for cover, reload, and hope the CCS shot doesn't roll a 6. Thankfully, it's a 7. And now I can finally move to save that poor civilian.
Go! You're safe! Go! Reloaded.
Then I catch a small break, as the cyber disc moves into range but doesn't overwatch. Colonel Wood takes the opportunity and makes short work of it. After a short moment of peace, the chrysalids are back, but they don't quite manage to attack. The rest of the mission now is standard chrysalid stuff, running to stay out of reach and using CCS to its full effect.
Out of the game. Kill confirmed. Dead and Roger Dodger. Need a resupply. Taken care of. Time to motor.
Here, it would have been better to half move and reload. It would have saved me from one hit.
Kill confirmed. See you in hell. EC in sight. Bye-bye.
And that's one last CCS to end the mission. And this time, I really did only save that one guy. Either way, that mission is done, and back at base, alloy cannon is also done. This time I do pick Illyrium next, and 3 more satellites go up.
Satellite launch.
This leaves one country without satellite coverage, namely France, but the French are just going to have to deal with that.
Additional uplink required.
In the Foundry, I start the desperately needed ammo conservation, which will double our clip size. And only a day later, it's abduction time once more. And with a crisp new alloy cannon in hand, it's time to head off to the train station lab. Nothing particularly interesting happens here, so for once, I'm going to skip over a mission.
Outstanding. Not only
I switch my research to nav computer here as it's only 2 days before returning to Illyrium. We finally get ammo conservation, and with Illyrium done, it's time for Titan armor. I would love to get going on new fightercraft, but we don't quite have the resources for that yet. It's already on June 1st that an abductor lands, and my spidey senses tell me we're going to meet some new types of aliens there.
HQ, this is Big Sky. We are in position and awaiting further orders.
Roger that, Big Sky. Strike 1, you are green to deploy. Approach with extreme...
This is a huge map, so it takes 3 full dash moves to even see an enemy. And first on the menu seem to be a mechtoid and a cyberdisc. The disc goes down in just 2 hits now, with at least one being a crit.
No longer a threat. Already
Ignoring the mechtoid for now, I move further down the side of the UFO, not wanting to get swamped at the entrance again. And it turns out, with the alloy cannon, I have a 1 in 3 chance to one-hit mutons now.
Out of the game. I'm rolling. Out of the game.
Outsiders? What outsiders? But just as I leave the bridge, the Mechtoid suddenly appears. But it too goes down in just 2 hits.
Out of the game. No longer a
And here we finally see the new alien I was expecting, the Muton Berserker. It's quite funny actually, because it's meant to be a really scary alien and all, but it's actually pretty dumb and predictable, and the Assault class is the perfect counter for them. When it takes a hit, it charges at its attacker, so it's easily baited into my CCS, as you can see here.
out of the game.
And that's it. That's the mission.
I figured the aliens would put up more of a fight. They didn't look so tough this time.
After a few more days of scanning, we do get Titan armor, and now we finally have the resources to research new fighter craft. And with Titan armor now equipped, I am finally ready to take on the alien base. And it's about this time I realized that the med kit allows me to take 6 extra HP into battle, while the respirator only gives me 2. So from now on, I'll be swapping out the respirator for a med kit. I will explain why I waited so long to assault the alien base later, but let's just say I wanted to have all the best equipment and upgrades ready before going on it. July 7th isn't even that late, all things considered. I've done it all the way in September in my impossible playthroughs. And I'm glad I'm doing it now, because in September, sectopods show up, and those are nasty. As it is, the alien base assault is a long mission, but not hugely challenging. First on the menu are a couple drones and a berserker pod. I'm feeling so confident at this point that I just take some long distance pot shots. The Muton in return misses his shot, and the berserker continues to not be threatening in the slightest.
X-ray down. Location.
Even the regular ones are just giving up at this point.
X-rays coming in. Nailed him. Dead.
The drone returns briefly, and a second berserker pod appears.
Down. ET in sight.
This berserker also goes down in just 2 hits.
X-ray neutral. On the move.
And look at this, are they even trying?
Taken care of. Kill confirmed.
Next up are 2 seekers, and they do get their free shots in, but otherwise stand no chance.
Watch the flames, they're moving. He's down. X-ray.
Further ahead, a pod of chrysalids, and these are also a non-issue now, as the alloy cannon is guaranteed to one-hit kill them.
Enemy is still alive. Got it. X-ray down.
A pair of thin men melts like butter. This pair of mutons do catch me in a poor position, but they do nothing to capitalize. I've no idea who's leading these aliens, but they're not doing a good job. Another berserker. This one actually takes 3 hits, but still, no threat.
They're repositioning on us. I'm about to start keep. Nailed him. Adjusting aim. Nailed.
Now the only alien left is the sectoid commander. And it does have mind control, and if my soldier gets mind controlled, the game oh, never mind, it's dead. Oh, my bad, that's not actually the end yet. There's still a pair of drones, but whatever, who cares.
Kill confirmed.
Feels like we're finally turning the tide.
That was weirdly easy, but fear not, harder missions are coming.
Nothing will
The
ever
sectoid commander autopsy unlocks psionics, and hyperwave communication will unlock the hyperwave uplink in 3 days. 5 days after that, we unlock the Firestorm, the upgrade to the Interceptor. These take 14 days to build, so I waited with constructing the hyperwave uplink until I unlocked them. The next research is EMP cannon, which is the most powerful interceptor weapon we'll get this run. The fusion lance is slightly more powerful, but it requires a battleship assault to unlock, and we will not be doing one. In engineering, I built exactly 1 Firestorm. Now, that's a dumb decision on my part. I should have built 3, but I'll get back to that later. At this point, we're reaching the part where it's 2 to 3 weeks after the base assault, so I'm very anxiously scanning the globe, waiting for the thing to happen. The game has a sense of humor though, and gives me a large scout instead. Honestly, I don't want to get too deep into this one, but since I've been on the base assault, mechtoids can now spawn with sectoid commanders, and outsiders have also been replaced with sectoid commanders. The bombed out city map does test my wits and tactics, evading 2 active mechtoids plus entourage, but once I get them where I want them, they still melt like butter.
I'm about to start keeping score. Back online.
The commander is mind melding the other mechtoid though, so I need to hunt it down. Luckily, the mind merge trail is visible through the fog of war. And once again, I feel like whoever's leading these aliens is trying to help me. If the commander had used mind control, I would have been done for. The rest of the mission is smooth sailing.
X-ray down.
There's just a command pod to go, and maybe, with there being 2 sector commanders this time, maybe it'll be a challenge. No, never mind, they're dead.
Excellent work.
Fun fact about the sector commanders. They will prefer to use their pistol over their psi attacks when you're flanked, or out of cover. I'm not sure why, as the pistol shot deals 4 damage, and the mind fray would have been 5. But if you thought that at this point the challenge was getting easy, well, there's trouble brewing.
Successful mission.
We return to the base, keep scanning, and just 4 days later,
What the hell?
Sir! Internal systems are shutting down all over HQ!
XCOM HQ is under attack, and it's up to a lone hero to save us all.
Moving in with reinforcements.
Unlike previous missions that were balanced for a squad size of 6, this one is balanced for a much larger squad size, so this will be our biggest test yet.
Generators are back online. And
On this mission, other soldiers are forced to spawn.
across
There's nothing we can do about that. We start with a selection of XCOM operatives and base security personnel. Over time, waves of reinforcements will spawn. My plan is to not do anything with all these units, just end our turns and leave them to their fate. Now the first thing that will happen is that a bunch of aliens will drop down from the ceiling in this room, and then a few turns later, aerial units will come from the rear. There's a high ground around the perimeter of this room, and there is a small area at the back where I can hide from most threats, and wait for them to come to me. This is the rough game plan. Now the drops begin, and it's mostly sectoids, a mechtoid, chrysalids, and a muton. The mechtoid dropped right on top of my soldier, so it goes down first. On my next turn, I kill a sectoid and the muton. I leave the chrysalids up, as they will run into my CCS on their turn anyway, so no need to waste shots on them. Then I kill another sectoid and fire one shot at the commander. I could have used rapid fire to kill it now, but I wanted to leave one shot in the magazine to deal with the chrysalid instead. On the next turn, the flyers arrive, and so it's time to wrap up the fight in this room and prepare to face them. I use this moment of relative peace to fall back and reload. The mind-controlled XCOM unit actually triggers my CCS here. So a moment of silence please for Rookie Han. We don't get long to mourn though, as 2 cyberdisks come bearing down on us, and I decide that now is the time to take the high ground and turn invisible. I briefly contemplate the 91% shot on this cyberdisk, but with 2 friends next to it and in a poor position, I instead move down to my designated hiding spot and wait for them to come to me. A new wave spawns in the mech bay, but they are really not my problem right now. Whew, these poor rookies. A peek up over the ladder reveals a clear shot on a chrysalid, which I take. In return, the sector commander makes my soldier panic and hunker down. This lets 2 drones fly up and tickle me a little bit. Over in the mech bay, more aliens spawn. Now the first of the cyberdisks finds my hiding spot, and thankfully isn't on Overwatch. I take it down, but it leaves me uncloaked. The other 2 can't be far behind, and sure enough, another one comes into view and hits me for a painful 9 damage. I don't want to fight it here, so I drop down and recloak. And wouldn't you know it, there's the 3rd one, and it's coming right at me. It's another 7 damage. This is not going well. Amy is 1 hit away from going down, and the other cyberdisk still hasn't moved. Thankfully, it doesn't attack this turn, so I can take down this one and recloak.
Not picking up any additional contact. Q will be secure.
You know, the number of mechtoids over there is getting concerning to me. For a few turns, things stay quiet, so I reload and patch up. Then, the last Cyberdisk comes back for round 2, and a Seeker for good measure. The Seeker gets a face full of alloy shards, but I'm still not fighting the Cyberdisk. 2 shots are not guaranteed to kill it, so I want all 3 available. And it does indeed take 3 shots. In the room below, 2 other units get damaged by the explosion. Huh. One of them is a berserker, just sitting there. And it joins the list of berserkers who have not threatened me this run. With the Cyberdisk threat gone, I decide to peek over the edge again, and I find a shot on the sectoid commander. It was mind merged with several other units, and specifically 2 other sectoids go down with it. The Muton there charges me and flanks itself? Okay. One more drone gets the CCS special, and its Cyberdisk friend also appears. On my turn, the Muton gets the coup de grace, and the Cyberdisk gets a rapid fire in the face. It survives with 1 health, but the CCS takes care of that. At this point, something strange happens. The tile next to the ladder is blocked, so once I jump down there, I can't get back up, so I must go all the way around to get to the big ladder. In my way stands another berserker, and like all the ones before, it's just absolutely useless. At this point, I think the only thing left to do is to fight the massive Mechtoid army. The first is easy enough to kill. The rest all seem to have mind merge shields. These shields take 12 damage to burn through, and once they're down, the sectoid can just reapply another shield. So I want to get at the sectoids first. The sectoids, it turns out, are all hanging out over here, quite a difficult terrain to engage them in. But there's no other way. Believe me, I tried waiting them out. They are not moving. And you can see just how terrible of a position I'm standing in now. I could take a shot here, but then the Mechtoid army would be all over me. Or, as demonstrated here, I could get mind controlled and instantly lose. So, I run back to safety through a hail of reaction fire. Funnily enough, the reaction shots actually set off a forklift explosion, killing a sectoid. Now I find a tile here from which I can see only the commander. The first shot hits, and even crits, but it rolls a 13 instead of a 15, and the second shot is a miss. But do you remember what I said about sectoid commanders preferring to shoot at you instead of using their psi abilities when you're out of cover? Yeah, that's exactly what this one does, and with 1 HP left, a pistol shot is all I need to finish the job. This removes the shields from the Mechtoids, but one sectoid is still alive, and it catches me in another line of sight glitch. It now mind merges with the Mechtoid itself, which allows me to spot it through the fog of war. It's a big risk to make a move this far, but I take down the sectoid and I'm still hidden. So the next turn, I can re-enter cloak. Okay, now it really is just the Mechtoids left. I catch one alone here and it goes down. Doing so tears a hole in the wall, but luckily, the line of sight is just glitchy enough, and I don't get attacked. Now from this particular tile I can see one more mechtoid which also goes down. But this does cause the other two that are left to attack me, so it's time to disengage once more.
Time to motor.
It's at this point I discover this ladder here, and that going up and down it doesn't trigger Overwatch. So I can go down, take one shot, and move up again. With this tactic, I can finally defeat the remaining mechtoids.
Let's do this. X-ray. I'm about to start keeping score.
Okay, it's not quite the end yet. There's still a sector commander cowering in the corner of the map.
We got company.
But now, it really is over. With 34 aliens dead, 13 XCOM operatives lost, a lone soldier, battered and beaten, stumbles into a hero's welcome in the sickbay. XCOM HQ is safe, and the hardest challenge of the campaign has been overcome. For her heroism, she is awarded 2 more medals. The Star of Terra for +5 will and defense, and the Defender's Medal for +2 HP from medkits. And despite everything, Amy Wood is only wounded for 1 day. But there's no time to lose. The hyperwave uplink will soon be finished. I buy EMP cannons for all interceptors now, plus aim, dodge and tracking modules. I do also start construction on 2 more firestorms after realizing my earlier mistake, but they will take another 2 weeks to finish. As for research, there's not much left to do. I have the armor and weapons I need, so plasma pistol is what I go for next. In engineering, I build the psionics lab, and it's time to continue scanning. A few days later, the hyperwave uplink is done, and at some point very soon, it's going to find something. In the meantime, July ends and we move into August. And we don't even get to scan in August as the hyperwave uplink cutscene begins.
Wait, what did you do? Shut it down.
Do not touch anything!
What's it doing now? It's working.
That's right, it's time for the Overseer UFO.
New data is inbound from the hyperwave.
Now, the error I alluded to making earlier was assuming that it would only appear over continents that have a firestorm present. This turns out to only be the case on Easy and Normal. On Classic and Impossible, it can spawn anywhere. And yes, it does indeed spawn on a continent without a firestorm here. So my options here are to just let it go, at which point it will take weeks for it to come back, or load back to an old save, build more firestorms, but then I'll have to redo the entire base defense. But there's a secret third option, which is to drink a tall glass of fuck it all and send the standard interceptor out there anyway. I know full well that this encounter is balanced in such a way that only the firestorm can do it, but hell, what do I have to lose at this point?
We have eyes on the bandit.
I send it up, immediately use all 3 modules, and as expected, it doesn't go well for the interceptor. But then, suddenly... yeah, that wasn't supposed to happen. I had to go on the wiki and crunch some numbers to work out what just happened, and I'm going to share that with you now. UFOpedia has this helpful article called Air Combat, which has all the numbers I need. The stats for the Interceptor and the Overseer. Let's look at the regular Firestorm versus Overseer matchup first, on normal difficulty using the EMP cannon. We can see that the Overseer has 2500 HP regardless of difficulty, and it has an armor value of 64 on Easy and Normal. The Firestorm has an armor penetration value of 34 on Easy and Normal, and the EMP cannon deals 1200 damage and has an armor penetration value of 44 on all difficulties. The damage dealt is given by this formula. Plugging in the numbers, we get 0.05 times 64 minus 44 plus 34. This is a negative number, and since this value is clamped between 0 and 0.95, the result is 0. This means 100% of the 1200 damage are getting through, and the Overseer is defeated in 3 hits. Now, let's switch the Firestorm out for the Interceptor in the same conditions. The Interceptor has an armor penetration value of 0, which means the output of our formula is exactly 1, which is clamped to 0.95. This means only 60 damage gets through, and it would take 42 hits for the Overseer to go down. So on easy and normal, the fight is balanced correctly, and the Interceptor cannot take it down. Now let's see what happens when we plug in the numbers for classic difficulty. First with the Firestorm. Its AP value is now 16, but to compensate, the Overseer's armor has been reduced to 45. The EMP cannon's armor penetration is unchanged. Plugging this into the formula, we get a final mitigation of negative 0.75, which is also clamped to 0. So again, 100% of the damage is getting through, and the Overseer goes down in 3 hits. Now if we swap the Firestorm out for the Interceptor, we again set the firing ship armor penetration value to 0. The formula now spits out 0.05, which means only 5% of the damage is actually reduced. 95% of 1200 is 1140, more than enough to also take down the Overseer in 3 hits. I can only speculate as to why the developers did this. It was clearly an attempt to rebalance the Firestorm on harder difficulties. My guess is they wanted to make the Firestorm versus Abductor or Supply Barge a lot harder, whilst keeping the Firestorm versus Overseer fight roughly the same. But even if they had kept the Overseer's armor at 64, the Firestorm could have still shot it down in 3 hits from the EMP cannon. As it is, they've just given the Interceptor a huge buff in this matchup. You can see if we plug in the numbers for the plasma cannon, it works out to 9 hits needed. On Impossible, the Overseer's armor is 52, so even the Interceptor only needs 4 hits with the EMP cannon here. I'm going to need to experiment with this, but it clearly shows that you can beat the game without ever building a Firestorm. You might even be able to beat the game without ever researching the Firestorm at all, though this would limit you to the plasma cannon, as new fightercraft is required to unlock the EMP cannon. Well, weird balance issues aside, we have a mission to go on, and now we can see which enemies to expect. Ethereal, Muton Elite, Drone, Sectopod. There are supposed to be heavy floaters here. Weird. I'm sure it's nothing to worry about. Okay, it was something to worry about. There are 2 Sectopods on this mission, as if one of them wasn't bad enough. I was going to introduce them to you and explain why they're so dangerous, but actually, you can just watch this play out.
Eyes on target. Watch the flank.
So yeah, Sectopods have 30 health, they only take 50% damage, which means I'll need as many as 8 hits to kill one. And they deal 11 damage per hit, and they get a free reaction shot after firing. And poor Amy Wood has to go up against 2 of them on a UFO map.
So it's safe to assume whatever they've gotten there is
So,
crucial to their invasion effort.
let's move a little more carefully this time.
On the goods.
Okay, poor start. I immediately spot a Sectopod and some Mutant Elites. Somehow, magically, I have no line of sight to them on my turn, so I make a mad dash to the UFO to get the hell away from that Sectopod. 2 pods of 2 Mutant Elites trigger on their turn, but they're really the least of my worries on this mission. find a tile where I can only see one of them, kill it, and recloak.
Aye, aye, Commander.
I continue my hit and run tactics, taking one shot and running away. And my god, these mutants are aggressive.
X-ray neutralized.
Commander,
Ah, great. And now the Ethereal is getting involved too. Fantastic.
He's down. Weapon sucking it.
And if that wasn't bad enough, I can see a sectopod through the fog of war coming right for me.
Stepping off. Going in for the kill.
I circle all the way around to the other side and catch a muton off guard.
Out of the game.
A second one comes out too, but also gets the rapid fire treatment. And now, playtime is over. That's right, both sectopods are now bearing down on me. And though only one of them gets triggered, I need to do everything I can to keep it that way. I need to keep them separated from each other.
I'm on the move.
Try as I might to run away, it catches up with me here. And I decide to fire 3 shots into it, knowing that I'll certainly have to tank 11 damage in return. And that's exactly what happens. Now, if I were to run away, I'd certainly get hit by its reaction fire, so I just continue laying on the trigger. And even after 6 solid hits, the sectopod is still standing. And it looks like another painful hit is coming. Mercifully, the shot misses. And with 1 shot left in the gun, she finishes the job. Oh yeah, and they also explode when they die and deal 5 damage in a large radius. Still, for a moment I get some peace. A glitchy line of sight check to a drone does activate the second sectopod,
I'm on the move.
but at least it's only the one now. Oh yeah, and they can do that too. When they have no valid targets, they just start randomly destroying their environment, like a cat with no enrichment. I swear, that thing knows exactly where I am.
Thing.
Oh look, a muton.
Kill confirmed. I'm on the move. I'm on the move.
Oh look, a drone.
I'm about to. Taken care of.
Okay, time to engage the sectopod. Like before, I want to use the close and personal shot only, and then immediately run away and recloak. And this works really well.
On my way.
For the killing blow, I want to be a bit further away though, so the Ethereal doesn't get a beat on me. And somehow, Amy manages to take down a sectopod with 4 8 damage crits in a row. Good work.
Location confirmed.
And now the only thing left is the Ethereal itself.
Kill confirmed.
And yeah, you guessed it, it explodes too.
We nailed it, Commander.
In theory, we only need to go on one more mission after this, the final mission. All that's left to research is Ethereal Device and then Psi Armor. I give Amy the Neural Damping Gene mod because why not? It might save her from mind control. With Ethereal Device done, it's time to build the Gollop Chamber. And just because there's only one empty tile left, I put a power generator there to complete the base.
a new gland will allow.
It takes another week for Scilab to finish. Really all we're doing now is watching timers count down.
Power generator complete.
Finally the Scilab is done and Amy goes to get tested. This will take 10 days, and I really hope no missions come in during that time.
We have a secure transmission.
I just had to say it. Well, it's only one day in, so I sent Amy out there. She does well, probably, and then she goes back to the lab.
Where are you taking me? I demand
Okay, UFO. UFO. Collop chamber done.
Gala chamber online.
Aliens terrorizing France. I don't want to go on that mission, so we say bye-bye to France. Sorry, France.
We may be onto something.
Alright, testing done. Amy is gifted. Glitched animation, side armor, cutscene, and then it's off to the final mission.
Having captured the device it sacrificed itself to protect, and our enemy leaves us with no other choice. A new type of weapon is required.
I picked Science-Spiration and Mind Control, but really it's Science-Spiration that I'm really interested in. On the temple ship, we fight our way down a very long corridor, with all the aliens we encountered scattered along it. First up, sectoids. Then, cyberdisks. I make a bit of a mess out of the cyberdisk fight here. The damage of the risk attack is based on the willpower difference between the two units, and since robots have a will value of 0, Rift does massive damage to them. Amy, however, is just a little bit off from one-hitting the cyberdisks with it.
X-ray down. Taken care of.
Right, finish off the sectoids, and then it's on to floaters.
See you in hell.
Mind control, because why not?
Got him. He's dead. I'm about to start.
After the floaters, some chrysalids. After them, thin men. Then mutons. One final berserker who also does nothing. Now, down there are 2 sectopods. Remember how fun the 2 sectopods were on the Overseer UFO? Well, this is actually easier, because I can attack them with Rift. I'm also using Science-Spiration to increase my Rift damage, and I can attack them from outside their line of sight. Funnily enough, if Rift is used by a heavy with heat ammo, it does 50% more damage to robots. So make sure you volunteer as a heavy in your regular playthroughs. For some reason, these sectopods don't have the good sense to move out of the Rift radius, which means they get hit with a second tick of damage too. That was weirdly easy. Next up are 2 muton elites, who don't put up much of a fight. I mind control 1 to make them fight each other. Finally, there's only 1 enemy left to kill. And I do admit, I use a small exploit to kill it. If you stand on this tile, you can use the rift to damage it without triggering the cutscene, which means no support aliens will spawn and it won't fight back. You can surely do the fight normally if you wish, I just got lazy and used the shortcut.
No retreat, no surrender.
And just like that, it's over. XCOM Enemy Within, on classic difficulty, beaten by one lady and a shotgun. And one awkward cutscene later, Earth is finally safe. In 11 hours of gameplay, Amy Wood defeated 356 aliens over 173 in-game days. And in that time, she only spent 11 days in the sickbay. The other stats are on screen now. And that's it. Thanks for watching.